Okay, let's jump right into this deep dive. We're cracking open a foundational text in homeopathy today.
That's right. William Boericke's Materia Medica, and we're zoning in on one particular entry.
Anthems nobilis, which most people probably know as Roman chamomile.
Exactly. And our goal here is really just to explore how this specific text describes it.
Yeah, to unpack the unique symptoms and characteristics listed in this source.
And maybe touch on its connection, as the text notes, to ordinary chamomilla. Things like, gastric issues, sensitivity to cold, that general picture.
What's always interesting with Boericke is just how detailed these descriptions get. Very specific symptom pictures.
Precision is key.
So where should we start? How about the respiratory symptoms? What does the source say there?
Okay, yeah. The text talks about coryzosa. That's basically like head cold, inflammation in the nose.
Right.
It mentions much lacrimation, so lots of tearing, watery eyes, plus sneezing, and a clear, watery discharge from the nose.
Okay, standard cold symptoms so far.
But here's a classic Boericke detail. These symptoms, the nasal ones, are specifically listed as being worse indoors.
Worse indoors. That's unexpected for a cold.
It is specific, yeah.
Does it mention anything else, like throat or chest?
It does. It notes a feeling of constriction and rawness in the throat.
Okay.
And it describes a tickling cough. But this cough gets worse in a warm room.
Okay. So the nasal symptoms are worse indoors, but the cough is worse specifically in a warm room.
Exactly. That kind of distinction, that aggravation based on environment, is really typical of how these Materia Medicas document things.
The precision seems, well, really central to the whole approach described in the text.
Definitely. These details, even if they seem a bit counterintuitive, are considered significant markers in this framework.
All right, let's move on down. What about abdominal symptoms?
The source mentions aching, specifically in the liver region, and griping pains too.
Okay.
But here's a really striking description. A sensation of chilliness inside the abdomen. It says this chilliness extends down into the legs.
Chilliness inside the abdomen. Wow.
Ugh.
That's not how you usually hear stomach troubles described.
No, it's quite distinct. The text also adds itching of the anus, and this is combined with stools that are described as white and putty-like.
Okay, very specific picture there too. What about the urinary system?
For urinary, the text describes a feeling that the bladder is, distended, full, even after urinating. It also notes pain along the spermatic cord. That's the structure, supporting the testicle. The pain makes it feel full, almost like it's varicose, like swollen veins.
Varicose. Okay, that paints a vivid picture.
And it also just lists frequent urination as part of the symptom set.
Got it. Lots of detailed sensations there. What about the skin? Any mentions?
Yes, for the skin, the source points to itching, but specifically on the soles of the feet.
Okay.
And it gives another very specific comparison. The itching feels as if from chilblains, like that itchy, burning feeling you get from cold exposure.
Itching soles like chilblains. Another really precise image.
And it also just mentions goose flush occurring.
Does the entry give any hints about, how it's used, dosage, or anything?
It does. Boericke's entry includes a specific recommendation. Use the third potency.
And potency, just quickly, in homeopathy, that refers to the dilution process, right?
Right. The level of dilution and succussion or shaking the substance has undergone. So the third potency is specified here.
So if you pull all that together, the respiratory stuff, worse indoors or in warm rooms, that internal abdominal chilliness, the specific urinary pains, the itching soles like chilblains.
And even the recommended potency.
You really see how this particular Materia Medica builds a very distinct profile for Anthems nobilis. These are the specific characteristics the text links to it.
Exactly. It really highlights the granular level of observation and the way these symptom pictures were recorded in this type of source material. It's all about these fine details.
Okay, so to recap from Boericke's text, Anthems nobilis is presented with this picture of cold sensitivity. These quite specific indoor warm room aggravations for respiratory issues, that unique internal chilliness in the abdomen, distinct urinary feelings, and that chilblain-like itching on the soles.
That's a good summary of the keynotes from this entry.
So just thinking about what we've read here, purely from this source, it makes you consider, what does this text intense focus on these very specific, sometimes quite odd-seeming aggravations, like a cold worse inside or a cough worse in warmth? What does that tell us about the underlying principles or the way observations were being made and recorded within this specific Materia Medica?
That's a really interesting question to reflect on based solely on how this source presents the information. What kind of observational framework leads to these kinds of details being highlighted?